Okay, y'all. So actually, I'm early on this video. I've been kind of, I don't know, uninspired to do much of anything, and I have so much to do. So let's get into this. This is Real Housewives of New Jersey, season 13, part 3. I'm going to say that for all 3 parts, I was holding my head. I was overwhelmed at the level of toxicity that has been going on. And we'll just get into this as much as we can. Frank has new teeth. He doesn't, and so there's this whole little kind of banter that Polly has great hair, Frank has great teeth, whatever. Polly's mom saying that none of them are attractive, which I think is cute. Frank is finally moving out of David's house and he's moving in with Brittany, so that's even better. Um, he doesn't seem to really want to let go. There's this, he's just like, I don't want to let go of this cool family dynamic that we have. Okay, that's fine. I get it. Um, Joe is happy that Marge's wrists were healed. They're talking about how the toddler runs the house. That's kind of how this works, but he seems kind of happy about that. John got lipo. I think it's very interesting, and I think it's kind of cool in a sense. Let me say the interesting part. It's interesting how the new people instantly are getting cosmetic surgery, hoping that they stay on the show by looking better. I think that's interesting. I think it's cool that they're able to publicly talk about this because normally people don't want to publicly talk about how they're engaging in all of this surgery, and but on the other hand, I think it's really kind of bum that they feel that they need to do all of this surgery in order to stay on the show. I think that is really kind of a bit of a bummer for that to be taking place. Um, and so there's that. He confronts Louis about the fact that he feels that he has been investigated, that this guy named Bo Deedle has been doing some investigation behind closed doors and confronting the baby's mother. Now, I'm not sure if the baby's mother is in jail or not, but here's the thing, Rachel and John, I want you to realize being on a reality TV show, every single one of your skeletons are about to be researched and put on public display. I feel like we are rehashing what happened in the first, I would say, 5 seasons when, Ish hit the fan with Teresa. And um and it began to get really hectic about Teresa was going crazy over who was saying what to who and the blogs, and she blamed Jennifer. No, not Jennifer, Jacqueline. She was blaming a little bit of everybody. And my thing is, and even if they did talk to the blogs, I don't know, don't care. I know Jacqueline claims that she's never done so, and that's okay. But I'm going to put out is that welcome to reality TV. In reality TV, every single person under the sun, all of your, okay, there are people, and I'm saying this on the behalf, I'm saying this specifically about Frank, about Margaret, about um, Joe, Gorga, Melissa Gorga, Rachel, and John. And I'm not saying Louis hired an investigator or not. I don't know. I do think that Louis is sketch. So is it a possibility that he hired an investigator? Yeah. But what I am saying is this. Hear me on this point. When you get on national television and you get on a show like Real Housewives of New Jersey, and you have a pup, and especially Rachel and John, you took a very deep stance against Teresa. There are people on this app, on these internet streets, that will investigate everything in your background. They will purchase your legal documents. They will talk to anyone about anything, and they will put it on a blog. They will put it on a YouTube channel. They will put it on Twitter for likes, clicks, and shares. They will write a book. And there's a few who have done so that have been New York bestsellers. So you don't need a private investigator. And the notion that Louis hired people to write about you guys and do a smear campaign, Louis doesn't need to hire anybody to do a smear campaign. There's a bazillion people who do not like Joe and Melissa, and anybody aligned to them is going to get dragged in the mud. That is reality TV. Welcome to reality TV. And what's fascinating is that they're saying that they keep saying that it's never been this bad until Louis came into the picture. I don't think that Louis is the catalyst. I think he may have been helping, but I don't think that Louis is the catalyst. I'm going to tell you what the catalyst is. Teresa has made the decision to sit down and watch the entire seasons. And she is taking the position of putting 1 + 1 now equals 2. For a long time, she has been missing the link. And so she's been going off of what people's been saying and really living in the moment of hearsay and things that are happening on the show. And so when she comes on the show, she's talking about what she remembers and not what she watched. Now it appears that her worlds have been colliding. She's been watching the show. She's been listening to what other people's been saying, rumors. And she's had enough. And the thing that bothers me, even at the end of the show, when they're like, so what are we going to conclude here? And Teresa's like, well, I was trying to figure out how we can come together and be peaceful because I was getting married, and she was shutting me down at every stance. And Melissa wants to even negate that point. Ma'am, we've been watching the show. You absolutely come up with different reasons, justifications for not wanting to think that this relationship wasn't going to work, right? And so, and you can't, there's some things that's just like, come on, you can't deny that if you feel rightfully justified in shutting everything that Teresa's asked you to do down, I'll take it. But we know that part is true. And so therefore, since that part is true, then here we are. Okay. But so to negate what we've been seeing all season is annoying. That being said, so do I believe that Louis hired the private investigator? I don't know. But my point, I don't know. I don't necessarily know yes or no. But I will say that Louis is sketch. But I also am saying that you don't need to hire a private investigator. Keep it 100. You don't need to hire a private investigator. People on YouTube, people on social media is going to find everything. Okay, Louis and the PJs. This is the strangest thing, and he tries to explain about the PJ thing. It still don't make sense. Joey's like, he makes a whole thing about that they wanted to be friends, and brother-in-law and Joe's like, I really want to believe that. And he's like, don't you think that you like when you got out of jail, I called you every day? And Teresa's like, yeah, when we were filming. And so then it goes into this whole thing, and Melissa jumps in, and it keeps people keep asking Melissa to just let them talk. Melissa does not let them talk. I said this so many times. I do not get into the middle of a conversation between my husband and his sisters. I don't care how, I mean, his mom will put me into it sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't care how close we are, me and his mom are. And how they include me in everything, and I love that. But at the end of the day, if me and my husband break up, that's their family. And I feel the same thing about my mom and her brothers. I don't get in the middle of them. Even if I have an opinion, I exit to the left. So all of this, you know, keeps coming. So therefore, I have to admit my personal background. I get annoyed when Melissa doesn't let them two talk, because if you think that their relationship is more important than you having a relationship with Teresa, you want to maintain them two having a relationship, then you know what? You exit to the left. Let them deal with it. But if they actually did sit down and talk, and it's pretty clear if you ever, it appears that they could come to a point. But the problem is that Joe also wants his wife and his sister to get along. I'm gonna say this. My husband at one point wanted me and one of his sisters to get along more. I have to say that I was the one who was rejecting it for what I'm not getting into why. And I wanted to be cordial. I wanted us to be cool with each other, um, be able to coexist with each other, but to like be the closer friends and hanging out and being in each other's circle, nah. And that bothered him, but it was like a level of acceptance because their relationship is extremely important, and I don't want to do anything to hinder that at all. And I wish Melissa would take that position because unfortunately, Melissa's going to always get blamed because she doesn't let them have their relationship with each other. She's always sticking in, and she feel like she's standing up for her brother, but her brother is grown. She doesn't need him. He doesn't need her to stick up for him when it comes to the relationship with him and his sister. So you're not going to get good reception. You're going to always, Melissa's going to always be counted a as the worst person in this. And Melissa's going to always catch more hate than what she deserves because she doesn't know how to give space. And yeah. So what's that? Um let's see, what were we talking about? Joey doesn't want to believe that Louis wants to be. Yeah, I already said that. Girl, I am tired. Okay, anyway, let me stay focused. Teresa again wants Melissa to stop talking. Danielle wants them to stop talking. I'm gonna be honest, this banter between Melissa, every time there's a little bit of talking, Melissa and Teresa starts, and it's just, I was a lot. Andy does eventually scream, and I can't imagine sitting through like what, almost 4 hours of this at least. It would drive me up the wall. If he does apologize to her, so I think that that's nice that he does apologize to her. I feel like he caught a lot of crap online unnecessarily because you only see clips and you don't see the full thing. Um, Now we have to talk about the pizza business. So we had this whole conversation about the pizza business. Louis talks about how he they were doing the pizza business together. He put up instantly $110,000. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure how good of a business person this can be if you are having instantly you have an idea and he's gonna write a check, no business. Like, no, he's like, I don't want to have paperwork because that's, oh, I don't want to have paperwork because why? Why do I want to? Because that's my, because this is family. So it's $110,000. Joe's claiming up that he eventually was going to be putting up the money. I don't know how much I believe him. There was this whole thing about how they're like, well, Joe, you have all these million, have $1 million in loans, like $1 million in debts that you haven't been paying people. He starts laughing about this and all these different judgments. It's like, sir, um, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of court papers that are out there. And there's a lot of companies that are coming out here claiming that you haven't paid them. And it's been a matter of about the last few weeks that, and the thing is that it's not like it hasn't been mentioned before. It's just that it has been mentioned publicly and it's been drip, drip, drip. Now it seems like it's like, oh, you say this? Okay, so let's bring up to refute. So it's a lot. So I don't see the humor. And like I said, bloggers have been paying dollars to get your court documents. So, um, Dina David. Oh yes, the Dina David issue. So Dina does not want to be filmed, and she is pretty strict. So when Joe brings out the fact that brings David again into the conversation and they really shut this down, who's they? Melissa kind of shuts it down a bit. And it's like, because there's another thing. Dina is being very out there about, look, don't mention me, specifically to Joe. I will sue. And that is legit. So the fact that he would want to bring it up again, Melissa's like, let's not talk about that. There was conversations again about Bill. Bill has a very dominant, he works a lot in his career, and especially if you're in the cosmetic surgery field, you work a lot. And he's talking about how he's doing a little bit better of a work life. People are upset, and especially on social media, they talk a lot about Bill and Jennifer's relationship and how Jennifer seems to be in denial a lot. And I am sorry, my husband is loud. My kids are loud. So I apologize. Um, I'm gonna say that I think it is very legit to not want your marriage to appear to be as bad as it is. So if it's bad, it's bad. It's good, it's good. I don't know. But I like to think that I'm fine with her wanting to uphold a sense of a facade or a sense of I'm keeping this man even if this relationship is dysfunctional. because she is a housewife. She is not going to divorce him. She is the definition of Real Housewives of New Jersey. She's not going to divorce her husband. He is not going to leave her. And so therefore, Eva, I don't care how many times he cheats on her, and because if they don't have a prenup, if he cheats, she'll take a lot. So he ain't leaving, she ain't leaving. Keep it moving. Margaret. There's an accusation that Margaret is supposedly talking to someone that is actually harassing Louis. I don't know. These are some wild allegations that people are just going around saying a lot. And nobody has real legit evidence. So I just kind of am over it. Um, Dolores and Paulie. Paulie's like, she doesn't want to get married. I think Dolores wants to get married. She's looking for that ring. But Paulie needs to get divorced. And he says he's working on it. I don't think Paul, even though Paulie says that he has a ring, I think that he's not inching fast enough for me. Um, this is something I respect of Dolores. I know that Carlos King says that Dolores is not giving much on this show. But I'm gonna say this is the thing that she is giving. And I like what she did. Dolores was like, Louis gave Frankie Jr. a job. He has a new job. That's all I'll say. Frankie is good with Louis, and that's it. Frank didn't want to, was about to add a little bit more context to this, and Joe kept egging, not what I heard, and was trying to egg Frank to say something. And Dolores is like, that is not what we're doing. That is my son. My son is not going to be dragged into this mess. We're not going to talk about it. This is y'all's mess. Don't drag my son into this. My son is good with Louis. There is no problem. The end, period. I was like, see, Dolores is nice. And I think people take her niceness for weakness. But she was like, red line. And Frank would have spoken more. But clearly, Frank knows when Dolores says it's a wrap, it's a wrap. I was like, okay, Dolores. Okay, I talked about Andy screaming. Okay, so Andy brings out that Teresa has made an accusation that Joe was around Joe's ex-business partner. Frank asked Joe if he can break attorney-client privilege, and Joe says yes. Frank was like, I was his attorney. I was his attorney. And the FBI and Patterson called, and Joe never showed up. Teresa's like, I don't think that Joe was trying to intentionally hurt me. I think he was trying to hurt Joe, and I was harmed in passing. Now, she's using the information that she has received from Jacqueline. People are annoyed that she's talking to Jacqueline. The thing that I think is hilarious about this is that it is publicly known that her and Jacqueline has made up. And um and Teresa's like, I didn't say anything bad about Jacqueline. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, Teresa. So then they're like, roll the tape. So of course they bring out the tape. Now, what she said about Jacqueline wasn't the worst, but for sure, they weren't on good terms. That's legit. Um, it's interesting because Teresa's wants to talk to Joe in Italian, and this is clearly intentional because Melissa doesn't know Italian. So Joe's not responding to her in Italian, he's responding to her in English in order to include Melissa into the conversation. Um, and of course, Danielle's like, look, let them talk. Melissa will not let them talk. Teresa gets upset. She stands up. She's like, look, we have stuff in her past. And see, now this is why a snippet of this was put out on social media. And like I said, you have people who just tweet and who was ready to, I'm so sorry, who was ready to do a lot of investigation in the past. And here we are. So when I tell you that people are pulling up receipts from when he was in college and he was accused of raping a girl, like allegedly, like it's a lot about Joe that is coming out. Um, Joe brings up how all of these other issues with his family when it comes to, he deals with like the whole pizza issue, the whole issue with Melissa, um, with them saying that Melissa was cheating with multiple people. So then this starts a whole nother conversation. And then they admit that it wasn't Teresa who said that Joe should leave Melissa. Because originally that's what was stated. And Joe's like, no, that's not what Teresa didn't say that. It Gia said it. So then they called. So Teresa calls Gia. And Gia's like, I didn't say that. I said that about the wedding that she wants you to be there, walk you down the aisle, and that this is, disappointing that this is not happening, and that you could do better in regards to the wedding, but not the fact that you could do better in regards to Melissa. I sincerely do not think that Gia would say that, especially from last season, where Melissa was the one who comforted Gia. I just don't think that she would say that Melissa was the one that she should leave Melissa, because I don't think that Gia would go that far. But I do think that Melissa will go as far as say that y'all are better than this. And then if push on the show, leave Melissa at the house. I could see that happening. I don't even know if I'd see that happening. Anyway, um, says to Teresa how upset she is. Melissa's talking about how Gia is lying and how Teresa's getting Gia to lie. Teresa getting her 20 or 22-year-old daughter to lie for her. Okay. And then he's saying that Joe, we should forget about each other. Everyone is able to make amends with everyone except Teresa and Melissa. And I'm gonna be honest. So here's my analysis of this. I feel that this 3-part reunion was a way for Melissa to explain her worth and value on the show. This was an attempt to keep a job because she knew that the way that this ended, that it was going to be between Teresa, that Bravo is going to have to make a decision. Do we want Teresa and Louis, or do you want Melissa and Joe? Or do you want neither? I think this would have been an easier conversation for me if this was just Teresa. I don't know if we can have another season of Teresa and Louis on this show because Louis does not really have friends on the show. I mean, he has Bill and, Danielle's husband, but I think that ain't gonna last long. But I don't, Louis is good enough to try to fake a relationship with the other guys. The issue that he's going to have is because there was this huge back and forth between, um, what is it, John and Louis, because Louis is trying to get the relationship to be kind of, salvage everything by giving handshakes and stuff. I don't think that people are going to be as comfortable with Louis. But then now the issue is if you get rid of Teresa, the backlash is going to be epic and the show's not going to last. So I don't know what Bravo can do. Because at the end of the day, if you keep Louis, you're going to have to get rid of Rachel, which I'm glad. But you're also going to have to get rid of Melissa and you're going to have to get rid of Margaret. I think you can make I think the easiest one to deal with would be Margaret. But Teresa isn't like Margaret. So you're gonna have to get rid of them three, which I think is still possible to get rid of them three. And actually I would be pretty cool with getting rid of those three and keeping the other three. But what I do know is this show was Melissa's attempt to keep a job and to prove that the franchise can go on with Melissa and Joe. And Melissa and Joe, and Margaret and Rachel clearly made an alignment with Melissa. And at this point, it is Russian roulette as to how this is going to move forward. Andy says that there's no break that's going to take place with Real Housewives in New Jersey. I don't know how this is going to wait. Um, so anyway, you know, I'm gonna talk about this actually. I'm putting them on blast. I'm gonna talk about this and I'm sorry, I shouldn't be on my text messages. I'm gonna talk about this on Summer House, Martha's Vineyard, because freak man are trash. Anyway, line 9 dudes trash. And Summer House Martha's Vineyard is an example of the trash. Anyway, point is I'm curious to see how Real Housewives of New Jersey is going to move forward. It will be interesting. And oh boy, let's go for the ride because the season, what is it? Season 14 is about to go up in flames. See you soon. Bye.